Thank you for joining us. We will be starting momentarily. Gracias por estar con nosotros. Vamos a comenzar momentariamente. Once again, thank you for joining us. We will be starting shortly. De nuevo, gracias por estar con nosotros. Vamos a estar comenzando muy pronto. Thank you for being here. Gracias por estar aquí. Please note that the session today will be interpreted from English to Spanish. We welcome you all to join us for this conversation and select the language that works best for you. Gracias a todos. Les recordamos que esta sesión se ofrecerá en inglés y español. Por favor, les invitamos que seleccionen el lenguaje que les funciona mejor para usted. Y ahora les presento a Juanita para que nos dé instrucciones de cómo utilizar la interpretación. And now Juanita to give us instructions on how to use the interpretation.
Thank you very much, Marina. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Juanita. I'll be your simultaneous interpreter. I am happy to share that language justice will be practiced in this event. We will honor and make room for people to participate in the language they most feel comfortable in, which means simultaneous interpretation will be offered in English and in Spanish so that everyone may listen, speak, and connect fully. Please make sure to select your language by clicking on the globe at the bottom of your screen. It will appear in a few moments, or the More button with the 3 dots. If you are with us from your cell phone, please make sure to find the 3 dots on the corner and press those. You can select language like that, as well as in your tablet. Buenas tardes a todos, yo me llamo Juanita, seré su intérprete simultánea y nos complace compartir que en este evento se practicará, la justicia lingüística. Honraremos y ofreceremos espacio para que las personas participen en el idioma con el que se sientan más cómodos, lo que significa que se ofrecerá interpretación simultánea en español e inglés para que todos puedan escuchar, hablar y conectarse plenamente. Por favor, recuerden de seleccionar su idioma haciendo clic en el globo que va a aparecer en la parte inferior de su pantalla o en el círculo que dice More, también otro botón en la parte inferior de su pantalla, y en el cual deben tocar y seleccionar su idioma. Si nos acompañan desde su celular o su tableta, por favor encuentren los 3 puntos, toquen los 3 puntos y seleccionen su idioma. Muchas gracias y que tengan una buena reunión. Thank you, Marina.
Thank you, Juanita. And as a reminder to make the best out of the interpretation, we want to invite you to register through Zoom. So if you have not done so, go through Zoom to get the full benefits of interpretation. Y como recordatorio, si no lo han hecho todavía, inscríbanse a través de Zoom para obtener los beneficios completos de la interpretación. Okay. Thank you all. Thank you all for being here today. Welcome To those of you tuning in for the first time, and welcome back to those of you who tuned in last week. I am your moderator, Marina Rodriguez. I am education mentor coach in our technical assistance team at All Our Kin. I've been in the early childhood workforce for close to 3 decades now, working in close affinity with family childcare educators for the past 15 years. As a coach, facilitator, I'm a content creator. I consider myself healer in community, a human of many trades in the infant, early childhood, and adult learning development world. Today, we hope to spark innovation and creativity when you think of supporting family childcare programs holistically. As a reminder, last week we were graced with the presence of some amazing women. Ellen Roche, researcher and co-director at the Trust for Learning, also All Our Kin's coaching team, co-founder Jenna Wagner, who was instrumental in the co-design of the coaching model of All Our Kin. We also heard from Coach Luz Martinez, mentor coach Tanya Michelson, and family childcare educator Jasmine Avila. It was a powerful session. The conversation was full of wisdom and the kind of practice that nourishes our work. As I reflected on the conversation, a few themes stood out to me. One was the need for cultural shifts that allow children to grow up fully witnessed by the adults who care for them, moving away from ideas like children are to be seen and not heard. And instead, we're learning how to be in healthier, more reciprocal relationships with them. Another that was very powerful was the parallel process, how change flows outward when we support educators as they are the closest working with families. And Luz, All Our Kin coach, and Jasmine, family childcare educator, shared a story about supporting a family during a weaning transition. The supportive experience not only made the transition smoother for the family, it gave them the tools that they carried forward and implemented with their next child. That's the ripple effect we are going for. And finally, the reminder that developing a coaching model rooted in relationships, not compliance, is a long-term and often messy work. It requires patience, iteration, and a real commitment to listen deeply to educators, trying things out, revisiting and learning all over again. And so if you missed the conversation, you can find the live on any of our social media platforms, All Our Kins and Trust for Learning. We invite you to check it out, as well as if you register through Zoom, you'll receive a recording of this. Now, to talk about and be in community with our amazing partners from Tennessee, Child Care Resource and Referral Agency. So during the years 2023, 2024, our All Our Kin technical assistance team had the good fortune to collaborate with Signal Centers, who is the hub for Tennessee Child Care Resource and Referral. And today we're so excited to be accompanied by their team to talk about our partnership and really to listen to their stories about the work they've done with family childcare. Joining us today is Shamithia Armstrong, Family and Group Childcare Coordinator, Jessica Turner, Family and Group Childcare Quality Coach, and Karusha Princess Hunter, family group home childcare educator and owner of Kiara's Playhouse. I will also live that Precious Newbell is not joining us today, and she's an amazing woman, full of resources, and she is the Deputy Director for the Tennessee Child Care Resource and Referral Agency. I will invite them all to introduce themselves in just a minute and to share about their role and the why behind their work. And to anchor us, I will remind us all of the power of being in community. Those of us that show up to this work with intention are active weavers of healthy communities. That is what a staff family childcare is. We do this through the embodiment of relational practices and approaches that we model for others in our communities. And those are our colleagues and the mighty and brilliant family childcare educators that we support. So I'll remind us that the power of community moves in cycles. What we give, we often receive. We reach transformation in cycles of mutual care and reciprocity. We acknowledge and honor that educators support their communities directly by supporting the children and families in their program. And family childcare networks, such as All Our Kin, Signal Centers, and others, provide programming that is intentionally designed to meet the unique needs of family childcare educators. This thoughtful design helps to reduce isolation, strengthens quality of care, and fosters strong, lasting relationships with families. I will now turn it over to our friends from Signal Centers, and I'll start with Shamithia. Shamithia, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your why? Tell us about Signal Centers also, and how the network came to be.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having us here. My name's Shamithia Armston. I am the coordinator of the Family and Group Childcare Network here with Signal Centers and CCR&R. And my why for being just part of this is I love the mission of Signal Centers, but I also give this story about how I got here and how my love of family childcare came to be. I always tell the story of my son. One of the great loves of my life, I guess you can say. He had a really rocky foundation with going to that center-based program. And after being there for about 6 months at a center, I remember going there to pick him up. And one of the teachers was like, hey, just for you to know, he's been in timeout because he didn't want to or didn't know how to play properly with the other children. And I was like, how long has he been in timeout? He's 2 years old and he didn't have a lot of verbiage. And he had been in timeout for hours. And I was like, I don't think this is a good fit. And I happened to find a family childcare. And this was 20 something years ago. And they welcomed him in. He excelled. They rebuilt that foundation because it was a rocky foundation. I mean, think about always being in timeout for just being who you are, you know? So they helped build that foundation. And just years later, here I am helping to support not only the families, but the educators in family childcare. So I definitely think this is a full circle moment for me and my passion for family childcare. So I'll tell you a little bit about Signal Centers.
Can I pause just real quick and
Absolutely.
just say, wow, like how courageous of you to share such a vulnerable experience first. And how fortunate he is to have you as a mom and an advocate. Because I mean, there were so many things that were flooding for me as you were sharing the story, all right? Like honoring children's organic attention span, repair when rupture happens, when a child goes on timeout, we know that like that is a significant rupture that's happening. So how does the adult repair and help the child really understand what was happening and help them regain a healthy sense of themselves? So I mean, there's so much in there, and I really just want to acknowledge and honor your vulnerability. So thank you, Shamika. Sorry
And
if
I
I
really,
off.
no, you're fine. And I really appreciate you for saying that because especially as a young mother, you know, you're there to advocate for your child, but it's one of those things where you're sitting there and you're like, wow, like, yes, he was that child, but it was also one of those things where you send them to school or you depend on other people to love and take care of your child as much as you would want to. But then to hear that, you know, they didn't honor him or honor his differences, was really like I always talk about the foundation of a child and that building him up. So it did take some time for that build up. And I'm thankful for having those 3 years that he was able to go to a family childcare. And this was in Louisiana about 25 years ago. And they built him up and they made him strong. And I'm super proud of the man that he is now.
Thank you, thank you. I interrupted you and you were gonna tell us a little bit about Signal Centers.
Absolutely. All right, so to give you guys a little history on Signal Centers, um, Signal Centers has a very, very amazing history. In 1957, it was organized by two mothers. Here we go about these parents advocating for their children. And these children had cerebral palsy. And these two mothers joined together and advocated for the service of their children. Their mission was to ensure that all children, regardless of any kind of abilities or circumstances, could achieve a life of self-sufficiency. Over the years, Signal Centers has expanded its services to include a variety of programs that focus on disabilities, early childhood education, and self-sufficiency. The organization has been very instrumental in providing support to underserved families, childcare professionals, and individuals with disabilities in Tennessee. So as you heard me say about the early childhood part, that's where we with TNCCR&R came about. And the great thing about TNCCR&R, which stands for Child Care Resource and Referrals, that began in Chattanooga, Tennessee as well. And there was a wonderful lady named Miss Marguerite Hollander who took it upon herself to go out into the community and support early childhood educators. And she would just pack lots of things into the trunk of her car and just go out in the community and give them materials. Because again, people didn't have the means, they didn't have the resources, and she took it upon herself to be that resource. So she is kind of like the founding mother of everything that we stand for with CCR&R. Now, as Marina said, about 2 years ago, our family and group team became part of Signal Centers, which is where Jessica and I are kind of like those founding members. And we are all things family and group childcare within this state. And we help support our providers by giving them resources, by giving them trainings, and just helping with coaching and training.
Yes, yes, yes. And I was fortunate to be there maybe like a year ago. And we did our 3 R's, which is grounding your coaching in relational, responsive, and reflective approaches. And I remember at that time you were all building your team. There were still like new people, and then older people, but you were all fairly new. And it was just a wonderful experience for me to be there in person with all of you and get get a feel of the work that you were embarking on. So Shamithia, can you tell us a little bit about your role as frame under the concept of support supports to educators and the network, if you will?
Absolutely. So my work is, again, I am the coordinator and I help not only support the coaches, but we also work on collaborations with the community. Also helping to build that leadership within our family and group um, supporters and educators in the area. And that can be with anything, creating their associations, creating those collaborations, and just finding ways to honor them. I think one of the biggest things is the silos that are created. So we want to just also be that resource to say you're not alone, and here are other support systems within your community to make you whole.
That's fantastic. And part of that is some of the work that Jessica does, right? So Jessica, can you tell us a little bit about who you are, your why, and just help us understand how your work comes alive?
So hello everyone, my name is Jessica Turner, or Sassy Jess. That's what my educators call me. Just because I get a little sassy from time to time and spice up the trainings. We have a lot of fun. I have been in the early childhood education field since 2009. I started out as a teacher assistant in a center. I worked my way up, graduated. I was a teacher. And then I also was an ed specialist. So then I got to supervise some teachers and help them grow. At one point, I was an interim director. So they put me right into that slot, and that wasn't where I wanted to be at. And I worked hand in hand with Tennessee CCR&R with my teachers in the classroom. And I loved what CCR&R did for the teachers. And I was like, you know what? I want to know more about what they do. So I looked into CCR&R. I applied for a couple of different positions and actually got interviewed for this one. Surprisingly, I had no background for family and childcare at all, other than my son, when he was small, he was in a little home with Miss Nichols, and she had several kids, a whole bunch of them. She was never licensed. However, she was amazing with the kids. That was the only experience that I had. And I remember, and I'll tell this all the time, same story, is Precious was on the call as well. And she stopped me and she's like, you have all this center base. You do realize our family and group is different. Like they're a whole nother breed. Family and group is different than a center. They're more family focused. You don't see the turnover like you do in a center. She said, so how would you meet them? Like, what would you do if you went into a family and group home versus a center? And I told her, I said, it would just be like, I have educators that have been at the same location for 15, 20 years, and it's no different. Those ladies have been doing it. However, I just go in and I literally meet them where they're at. And that was the same concept that I took in when I come on as family and group quality coach. I go in, I build that relationship, and I meet them where they're at. That's all you can do. Because they've been doing it for a long time. They can give me more advice sometimes, especially when I first started. I would go in and I would see things. I'd be like, oh, that's completely different, because family and group rules, family and group things that you can do is different than what you do in a center. The love that they give to children is different than what you get in a center. And I never realized that until I started this job. And then that became my why. Like, they are my why. They are my purpose. They get me emotional, like I'm about to do now, just talking about it. But whenever I go in and I get to spend the day with them and those kids, and they call you like family, like you go in and you give them a hug and stuff, they become your family. Look at Princess. She's smiling at me because she knows. That's the why behind why I started doing this and diving so deep into family and group and wanting to be there. Is those aha moments that they have alongside of me. So that's my why.
Thank you for that, Jess.
Mhm.
Happy Jess.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a thought, two thoughts. One connected to the conversation that we were having earlier, Shamithia. that's also connected to this conversation about, why the reason why we support adult learners. Right? Like many educators come to the work from many different backgrounds, many different work experiences and life experiences. And I do feel strongly that the purpose of coaching is to help an educator really think about who they are in the context of the relationship with the child, so that they are creating spaces where a child is fully seen, fully valued, develops a healthy sense of self. And we do this also with the best interest of the adult learner, right? Like we're holding that they come with so many life experiences. And so the holding it gets to be a gentle holding so that they can have time for reflection, unlearning, and trying new things. I wanted to lift that because I want to ensure that we continue to bring the message forth that we are all learning. We're all learning, right? We're all on a spectrum of evolution, if you will. And so some of the things that we experience at one point in our life that might inform a decision or an action that we're going to make might be something that we need to relearn and do differently. And in the context of creating environments that really hold children holistically, I think this is the power of coaching. And you both inspired this thought in me. I'm not sure how, and how is that living in you now, and what can you say to that?
I'm going to tell you, Marina, one thing that we learned, especially with you coming to meet our team so early on in the process, was to walk away with meeting people, meeting educators where they are. So you're going to hear that constantly out of the words of our coaches, because if someone's not open to a message or open to a process, then what's the point? So we have to meet them where they are, and we have to walk side by side with them, so that everyone, it's not just going to be about the educator, but it's going to also be about that coach growing as well. So walking side by side is definitely one of the things that we try to implement with our coaching and our trainings.
Yes. Love that. Thank you for welcoming that thought. So Sassy Jess, do you think you can walk us through what a visit looks like? And then we definitely want to hear from Princess. If you could just tell us a little bit what a visit might look like, and then we want to welcome Princess to talk a little bit about her program, and your coaching relationship.
Okay. So I'll start out. Whenever we first started, like she said, we're kind of like the OGs of our family and group within CCR&R. So when I first started going out and coaching, it looks a little different than what it looks like now. The very first ones was building that relationship, just going in and letting them know that I'm just like them. I'm there with them. I'm there to learn with them, grow with them, build that relationship before we even got started on a hot topic that they may need to know more information about. Just going in, sitting down, having those conversations, understanding their life, their why are they doing this? Because understanding that helps me better understand where they're coming from, and also a family and group, how invested they are, because they're invested in their business, their program. So I just want to know their why. And that's how I start out building that relationship. Past that and leading up to now, we usually have things ahead of time. Like I'll go in, and it's so funny because I go in with an open mind. I go in, I'm like, okay, we're going to work on accreditation today. However, I may go in and there's a child over here that's having a fit or a breakdown or behavior issue. So I have to be flexible and able to move in the moment and we'll get to accreditation next time. It's okay. Let's worry about the in the moment situation that's happening, and put out the fires before we do something else. And I've learned through the last almost 2 years now in this position, that you have to go in with an open mind and be flexible when you're coaching, and be able to have a bag of tricks up your sleeve, so to speak. And just know that wherever that educator is in that day, that's where you're going to be at. That you're just going in. Hopefully you go in and it may be the perfect thing that, oh, we set a SMART goal. We have an action plan. We have all these next visits scheduled. That may be a smooth coaching visit. However, sometimes it's not like that. I mean, we're all human. The kids are only human. I mean, they come in and you never know what little Johnny's going to do if he's having a fit. And then, oh, well, Sassy's coming today. How am I going to handle this? Well, guess what? I go in and I sit down and I play with little Johnny right alongside Princess or something. You know, I'll just sit there and I'll work with it. So it's all about that relationship and being open-minded to where the educator is. Just going back to what Shamithia just said, meeting them where they're at in that day, in that moment that I scheduled that visit. There has been days that I've had educators call me like, hey, like today is just not a good day. I'm like, it's okay. I'm very understanding. It's okay. We can reschedule. But I don't pressure them into rescheduling in the moment because they're already having a meltdown with the child. Call me at the end of the day. Call me at nap time. Call me some other time, and we'll get it. It's okay. It's okay. So that's kind of a typical coaching.
Yeah, wow, thank you for that. So many thoughts in my mind right now. It reminds me of, we talked about before the idea of coaching not being prescriptive. Yes, we reflect, yes, we prepare for the visit, but it's not a prescription. We are in the moment with the educator. The other thing that is making me think about also is how as coaches, we continue to navigate the personal and professional identity of the educator, because we're going into someone's home. And so anything could be happening in their life, in their personal life, that they might just need to vent out before we move into a conversation that talks about goals that, that you've established. And so that is very unique in the work that we do with family childcare, that personal life is also very present. And there are ways of being that help us navigate that in a way that supports the educator without overstepping right outside of our professional boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah. So Princess, you just went on camera, but I was just gonna bring it to you. Let us know if you can talk. Oh, there you are. Yeah.
I can. Okay, you want me to introduce myself and tell a little bit about me?
Go for it. Yes.
Well, I'm Karusha Hunter, and I'm in Knoxville, Tennessee. And I guess you could say I'm an East Tennessee provider. I've been doing this 25 years, and all because of my mother. She did this as long as I can remember, from middle school on to even when I was in college. So when my daughter went to school, who I named my daycare after, when she was getting ready to go to kindergarten, I knew I needed to work, and but I knew I wanted to be an involved parent. And so she was like, "Why don't you try childcare?" And at the time, it was called unregulated here. And so I did that first, and of course, I got licensed. And the rest is history. But when I got into it, it was for those purposes because I needed to work, and it still provided me to be home, to support my daughter. But then, as a little time went on, I knew what my purpose was. The purpose came into plain sight. That the kids, especially in my neighborhood, because I live in an inner city neighborhood, which is a wonderful neighborhood, uh, they needed me. The kids that I serve needed me, and just to give them that sense of family and relationship and love. Uh, yeah, I understood what my purpose was.
Mm. I felt that. I felt that, and I felt the emotion behind your purpose, um, behind the idea of love, right? I know one of the questions that I get asked regularly is, what is education? What do you mean by educational coaching? Many people might perceive education as academics, like
Mm-hmm.
the ABCs,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like preparing children in that way. But the way that we see education is exactly as you said it, Princess, is that love, right? Is helping a child feel so welcome in an environment that they can imagine themselves to be anything that they want to be in life.
Exactly.
So they get to be in an environment that where they can explore without being stifled.
Yeah.
And so that really comes in the hands of an educator that has also developed or healed their sense of self so that they
Right.
can fully in the relationship with the children. Um, Tell me about that right. Tell me what's in that right.
What's in that is well, I have seen children come not only developmentally at a low, but just the trust
Mm,
of another adult, and also their families, the parents, the mom or the dad. It's been the trust has been let down, and
mhm.
so it's kind of like when Jess comes into me, she comes in and meet me where I'm at. That's how I do with my families. I meet them where they're at, and just let them get to know me, not by what I say, but by what I do, what I model. And then, they catch on to who I am. And then I get to sprinkle all this love I have on them.
Yes, yeah. Thank you for that. Powerful, powerful words. And what has coaching meant for you? In
Oh, coaching has meant a lot. Like I said, I'm a person, I'm very friendly, but I'm reserved. I'm also reserved too. And family childcare as a whole in the last years, it has taken a hit in different areas. So I know others as well as myself, there's a wall up. And we have a lot, I guess, entities that go into family childcare because it's not this big, quote, quote, shiny building. So when the person comes in, they get to see what our home looks like. And sometimes you may be feeling a certain way about how your home is, looks or whatever, or the materials that you have, or furniture and furnishings that you have for your program. And it may make you feel, or some people feel like I'm not adequate enough, or my stuff's not good enough. But then that's when you have to show them who you are and how well your program is. And so with Jess, when she come in, and once we have established that relationship, because like I said, she met me where I'm at, then we can go from there. Whether I need help with lesson plans, where I have a problem with a child that's showing some type of behavior, where there's biting or just meltdowns or tantrums that's just getting kind of out of hand, or just maybe one of them days when I'm needing like a moment. And we all have been there where you feel burnout. You haven't lost the purpose or your love for what you do, but just with all the things that you have to contend with, as well as personal life, sometimes you're just on burnout. And Jess can be that voice or that person that could give you a call or send you an email or something, and just says something to, you know, you can hang in there one more day. It's okay. We have these moments. And so I really appreciate Jess being my coach. I do. Because I feel comfortable with her. And I haven't felt comfortable with a lot of people, but I feel very comfortable with her.
Yes. Oh my God. You spoke so many truths in my life right now that, right? Like that idea of feeling burnt out and then feeling like a separation from the thing that you love and that you love to do and your
Yes.
passion. but because, there's so much, like, it could be fatigue on different levels. It could be emotional fatigue,
Right.
physical fatigue. You just need a breather. You need a breather. And it
Yes.
sounds like Jess offers that to you.
Yes.
Do you have any breakthrough stories that you might want to share? Or yeah, Jess, I just saw
Yeah.
you.
Okay. Oh, which one you talking to, Jess or me?
Oh, both.
Okay. Jess, you go first.
Now, I was just going to follow up with the first time that I ever met Princess. I can see, I'm a very visual person, so I can literally see it like it was yesterday. Me walking in, her letting me come into her home, into Kiara's playhouse, and I sat right down on the chair, and she sat across her, and we had a conversation. I introduced myself, and we just sit there nonchalantly, very relaxed, and talked like we'd always known each other. And in that moment, and then right afterwards, I think I gave you a hug as well. I gave
You
you a hug.
did.
I told you I was a
You did.
hugger. I said, I'm a hugger. And
Yes.
I gave you a hug, and it was, history after that. However, you were talking about a breakthrough, and we were talking about your shirt.
Yes.
That was a big breakthrough. I was thinking about that. We've had breakthroughs as coaches. However, working together to come up with the support group was probably our biggest breakthrough that we've had.
Yes.
Yes. And
Yes.
we're still working on it.
We are.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about the support group.
Okay. I'll go, Jess. Well, we of course we're a support group of educators or providers here in Knoxville. And it has went through some transition, some great transition. So we're trying to build up that camaraderie and support that educators need, that we all need. And so the support group not only offers support in just, a pat on your back or you're doing a great job, it also offers support in trainings, if certain trainings that we may need. And we know everybody is not tech savvy. We're learning. So some of the trainings that you can maybe go online and do, but for people who are not that tech savvy, they can come to our support group meeting and we may be offering that training there as well. So I'm really enjoying it that it's getting back up and running. We got to work out some kinks, but like all things that's worthwhile, it has some kinks.
Yeah.
And I think the laughable moment that the two were sharing was that first support group, they were having lots of different personalities.
Yes.
And Jessica kind of called me out to that first support group and she was like, hey, I need some extra support. And I was like, okay, let me put on my Superwoman cape and dun dun dun, dun here I come. And we got there, and of course, I mean, it was lots of ladies that were passionate about what they do, and we had just come out from COVID. So, there were always COVID restrictions, COVID feelings. So now coming out of COVID, it was really just a moment of just having not only reflection, but just having real conversations that were sometimes tough for
Yes.
them to have as an association. And with Jessica and I being the outside people, and we could see things a little bit differently, it was like, all right, let's put it out on the table. Let's kind of duke it out in the most professional way possible. We're here to support, we're here to move on, and we're here to help you. And I think that was an aha moment for all of us. And it made that support group and the ladies in that area open up and know that we were there for them.
Yes.
And we were here for the long haul.
Wow, sounds amazing. I love that you use the language support group too. I don't think, like, we've done reflection groups and we had a lot of reflective conversations, but I never heard it in the context of support group. And I think there's a lot of power in that. It's a lot of power in us supporting each other. And I think it helps us unlearn some narratives about us needing to do things alone, right? It helps to bring us back into community, and really continue to forge new relationships in community. And it lives the power of community, because I think this is what we're talking about, right? We're talking about networks of women, primarily women and primarily women of color, who are continuing to support each other
Yes.
so that they can be in better environments for themselves and therefore create better environments for children. And like you all said, right, the idea of meeting somebody where they are is the idea that we also meet ourselves where we are, and that we create room to expand, because we know that in this relationship something in us will change, will shift, because we're growing in the partnership. In a circle, right? Like, it's not just the educator. We grow as coaches. So I'll ask one final question before we open it up to our Q&A. And if we have questions from the audience, we can answer some of those. And if not, we can continue to talk. What barriers do you think family childcare educators face? And how do you help each other to overcome those? What do you think are some barriers?
Currently, some of the barriers in our area in East Tennessee is enrollment. That's probably the biggest thing that we're having issues with right now, is enrollment for our family and group. There's a lot of pre-Ks in the Department of Education that are opening up. So across the various counties, especially the rural counties, whenever the elementary school is also having a pre-K program or an extended program, that kind of cuts into family and group. However, the sad thing is a lot of times people don't understand the valuableness and what they get out of family and group versus going to that school system. Some of my educators have called me and they're like, Jess, I need new ways of getting myself out there, put myself on Facebook, that I have these openings. And we've tried numerous things, and yet the enrollment is still down. They used to have waiting list, and now there's not a waiting list.
Right.
So, and they're actually having to go from the mixed ages, to where they can have 6 weeks all the way up through 5, and then some school agers afterwards, to where a lot of our family and group is having to refocus their whole program and think about infants and toddlers. Whereas before, they could do a lot of the preschool and fill most of their class with just preschool. However, that preschool isn't there anymore. A lot of the preschool is now going on to the programs, and they're having to think of new ways to have income and build that back up, and it's infants and toddlers.
And I'll piggyback on Jessica. Yes, that marketing is big, where I think family and you keep hearing us say and group childcare in Tennessee was a lot of word of mouth, and it was lots of generational. Like, you had the children, and then now you've got the grandchildren. And with some of the changes that are happening in the system, a lot of our support is going to help them market their programs. And I also think the second one would probably be some of the federal cuts. So many of our programs have had lots of support with the certificate programs in the areas as well. And with some of those cuts, that's becoming one of our new ways of supporting and trying to help think of different ways to not only get the children, but to support the professionals in the programs.
Yes. Princess, do you have any thoughts on barriers that you experience as an educator?
That's some of the same barriers that they said. Some of the cuts, because the cuts that I've seen as the provider, one of the payment assistant programs that has been available, where it's on like a freeze right now. So if a new family were coming in and even qualified for that program, they are not able to get on.
Mm.
Or if a family starts experiencing, let's say you have a mom and dad and one loses their job, and I know that we're able to qualify now because of the income. Well, They couldn't apply because it's a freeze right now. So I'm seeing that, and even one family already is already asking me, what can I do? Because I don't want them out of your program, but I understand that you have to live also and pay your bills. So it's like, how can, is there anything you could do that we can work out? Right. So I'm seeing that.
Yes, so if we have any advocates in the audience, and at the level of Tennessee or federally, we need to think about these systems of support, right? That they're not separated. The systems that fund families to be able to, right, to have a secure spot for
Yes.
their child in a program so that families don't worry about where they're leaving their children.
Right.
They go
Right.
to work, right? One system feeds the other. I think there's a lot of room for us to do better as a nation in that space. Any nuggets of wisdom you want to leave us with today, Shamithia? Any nuggets of wisdom, and then we can go around.
I think a nugget of wisdom that I would have is, especially as I sit here and reflect and just like listening to Princess and Jessica and just thinking about their story and many other stories that we've had with our coaches out in the field, is just be open. And that's in the stance of being an educator, that's being in the stance of being a coach, that's even in the stance of being a parent. Like you guys said, some people think that the whole shiny and new and it's a big program and it's this great center base, which is where so many of us have started. But think about all that love. Think about just having those moments. And I don't even think that anybody, at least today, has said anything about people like Princess helping to educate the parents as well. A lot of times, those words of wisdom actually come from those educators because they're with their children so long and so much and get to learn and know them on such an intimate um, case that they give them just all the great things on what their child is doing or how they're helping to support the other children. But it's also to help those families. Simple things on like, I remember I had an educator call me the other day and she said, I had to call this parent and say, oh my God, there's hand, foot, and mouth. We hate that, but it was something that was going around. And just to educate the parent on how do we take care of that? How do we, clean behind it? Because adults can give it. So just giving them additional education, it's not only for the children, but there's so much education that goes to the parents in just parenting and
Yeah.
family childcare.
Yes, thank you, Shamithia. Jessica, any nuggets of wisdom you want to leave us with?
Be sassy. No, I'm just kidding.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Probably just the biggest one is just if there's any coaches on it, and just build that relationship. Actually get to know them on a personal level. Just like Princess, we had the gala and her mama come there, and I call her mama. Like I walk in and I give her mama a hug. I'm like, hey mama, how you doing? Like get to know them on a personal level. Don't just think of it as this is my job and this is what I have to do. No, this is what you love and these are your family. Like that's the way I see it as. Just build that relationship with the educators, and just everything is based on relationship. That's pretty much what it is. That's the foundation. That's the foundation of how you're going to advance and get them what they need in the moment.
Thank you, Jessica. How about Princess?
Okay, the nugget I will have is, don't look at us as the low men on the totem pole, especially when it comes to quality care. We're not the lowest men on the totem pole. We need to be upranked and talked about in the rooms, just like any other avenue of childcare. Place family childcare up there also. Cause one child, I mean, if you look at it, it's kind of, I guess, hypocritical. Cause how is children over here in this big center or program differ from children over here in this program? They are our children.
Mhm.
So don't look at us as the low man on the totem pole.
Thank you for that. Yes, spoken right. The person that can talk about it, right? I think we can all talk about this work at different levels. And Princess, yes. So we have just a few questions in the Q&A, and one is around early Head Start regs and getting parents to understand that the child needs the developmental referral. I think we can certainly get to that question a little later. And then the other thing is the comment, and so that the audience knows, we will be sending out a resource page right after all the panels have been completed. So we can add information about Head Start. We can add information about developmental needs and references. I do think that the coach does play a vital role in supporting the educator to think about how they might want to welcome a conversation around noticing behaviors in children that you want to talk more about, and that you want to engage with the family about learning what this behavior might mean and how does it look like in the home, and continuing that conversation if it is indeed behavior that needs to be referred out. So we'll be happy to follow up on that. And then there's also a comment about in the state of Connecticut from an educator in the chat about that Connecticut, Princess, to your point, also the family space, a lot of similarities in that there are spaces, but there's not enough funding to meet the needs of the families that need the spaces. So that becomes also a challenge. So we are at 58 past the hour. I just want to share some gratitude for you, the work that you do, your commitment to children, to families. Thank you for your stories, the insight that you offer. And before we close, I'll invite everybody that's here to join us for our final session, which will be riveting. Joining me as moderator will be the wondrous Lucy Rescio, an amazing woman who life has gifted me with getting to know her. And the panelist is a powerhouse, All Our Kin co-founder Jessica Sager, National Association for Family Childcare and Executive Director Erica Phillips, and Sarah Haberberger. Sorry about that, Sarah. I'll learn to pronounce it. She is the founding executive director at Greenlight Kansas City at the Greenlight Fund. So please join us for that trifecta, September 29, 1 p.m. Eastern. As a reminder, please register through Zoom to receive the full benefits of interpretation. And as we close and we move forward, let's hold on to these reminders. Trust is critical in any relationship. So let's think about how do we continue to build and sustain trust. Cultural shifts open new possibilities for children. The support ripples outward through the parallel process. And that coaching grounded in relationship takes time and courage. And this is the kind of change worth committing to, messy, meaningful, and lasting. talk to you all later. Thank you, ladies, so much. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.